Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode here on the Minnesota Lefthanders podcast. We got a special one for you, Nate.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We are with Leftee Golf. Dan and Sam are with us, and for the first time in a long time, you and I are in the same room. So, Dan and Sam, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you all for having us. We wish we were in the same room together as well.
Are you guys?
Yeah, that's right. Glad to be here, guys.
You guys live far away from each other, or are you in the same region, or?
Yeah, we're about an hour from each other. I actually live in Sam's hometown where he grew up. My wife grew up in a town called Brenham, Texas. So we're back here. Sam lives over in the Houston area. So on a good day, we can get back and forth in just over an hour. On a bad day, it could be a couple.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We were neighbors at one point, and he's since moved. What do you figure? Half hour away.
Yeah, not far.
Yeah. Cool. So I don't know. Let's dive right into it. You know, what do you do? Who are you? What was kind of the beginnings of all of this?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just kind of give my spiel first, and then let Sam kind of get into it as well. But obviously both left-handed golfers, very amateur left-handed golfers. But first and foremost, Sam and I both actually work in baseball. So I'm a baseball scout for the Baltimore Orioles. I cover all of South Texas. Sam's a Division I baseball coach in Houston. So we both have playing backgrounds, and we both swung the bat left-handed. Sam swung it a lot better than I did in college, and I was a good player. So I think that similar to how it works up in Canada with a lot of the hockey population being left-handed, him and I started playing a lot of golf together, and both being left-handed, we'd always get not just kind of get funny comments from people on the tee box, like, how could there be more than one left-hander on the tee box? How's that even possible? It's like, at some point, it's like, yeah, we get it. We're both standing the wrong way. Yeah, we can borrow each other's clubs, yada, yada, and it was just kind of funny. And I think between Sam and I and a lot of our friends, especially with baseball backgrounds, we could probably put together, an eight-some if we wanted to of left-handed golfers of our friends. So, that's kind of the genesis of us wanting to do something. I think, in the summertime, this last summer is about June or July. It's a kind of an odd downtime for scouts. There's not a lot of baseball going on after the draft, so I was pretty free to play some golf. Sam, you were going through kind of a career change, moving from the college that you were coaching at to the next one, right? You had a couple months down in between that.
Mm-hmm.
We filled that time playing a lot of golf, and 4 or 5 days a week, and we were probably playing too much golf, as our now wives and whatnot would tell you. But we just thought it was funny, and that, with so many people commenting about being left-handed, and we kind of thought, gosh, it'd be kind of fun to do something for left-handed golfers. And, I outside of baseball, and this is kind of a longer story, and I'll keep that short, but I had a background in the creative industry for about 10 years. I was always answering to another client. Always kind of wanted to be my own client and have somewhat of a creative platform. So we really just started kicking around the idea, like, what if we had kind of a nebulous sort of brand that could do a little bit of apparel and some merch, maybe some content, but really just give us a reason to play more golf and hopefully meet some cool people. And now we're sitting on a podcast with left-handers in Minnesota. So I'd say that kind of that door opened. But yeah, that was really the genesis of how it started. And kind of why, and there's some more details about how we really got it going, but that's the overall, I'd say, gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, baseball is the common theme that brought Dan and I together, but then it quickly became golf was the escape. Like, we didn't really talk about baseball when we played golf, and I think it was refreshing for both of us because baseball had been everything all the time. And as Dan said, I was going through a career change. I was working at the local junior college in the town that Dan lives in now, which is my hometown, Blinn Junior College, and gone through a coaching change. And I was looking for a job, and luckily found one here in Houston. But during that transition, I had time to play a lot of golf. And Dan was a guy that I'd met as he moved to Burnham about a year before, and like he said, we took every advantage to play wherever, whenever, and that kind of escalated the lefty talks. Like we had kind of kicked it around early, and then the lack of employment on my part and the downtime for Dan kind of really kickstarted the whole deal. And once you get around Dan, you'll realize like the creativity is off the charts, the vision, the whole deal. And he kind of pitched it to me, and I was like, dude, I'm all in. And I want to say, Dan, it was you going through a time where you had a little bit of downtime. You know, you had your second daughter, and you know, it was a lot of brainstorming going on, but that was kind of the nucleus of the idea. And then, you know, Dan kind of kickstarted it, and we kind of just went from there. So,
you know, I love that you said, you know, certain doors have opened and you've landed in places you didn't, you know, really ever think you would podcast with us and things like that. I've had the same thing. We've been around since July, and just this past July, and it's been the same thing. I mean, the golf world, the people in the golf world have just been so like, hey, yeah, let's do this. Come play golf with me. You know, it's been awesome from that perspective for us as well.
It's super cool, and you know, it's kind of funny how small this world is. When we kick this around, the name is really kind of what hit. I was actually in the hospital ready for my second daughter to be born, and it just kind of hit me, Leftee, Leftee. And we said, oh, maybe there's some staying power with that. Let's kick it around. And I sat with my iPad and wrote. And long story short, we went from kind of a name on an iPad to hiring Shane Bacon, a left-handed golfer from the Golf Channel, hiring his firm, Ground Under Repair Design. And I'm just going to give an absolute shameless plug about them because they're just the best in the business. And funny enough, he's from Marshall, Texas. His designer, Kate, is from Minnesota, played at Nebraska. Now, she's right-handed, but we'll give her a pass on that. That's a pretty good right-hander at that. And lives down here just south of Houston by about an hour and a half in Galveston, and plays out of Moody Gardens. So just a small world, you know, when we contracted their firm. And they obviously really bought into what we were trying to do, given Shane's background, and certainly couldn't have done it without them. But small world, especially, you know, the 5% of us or whatever that are left-handed, it's pretty cool.
So I knew that you guys worked with Shane and Kate, and you brought it up, she's from Minnesota. We're one of the few places where she's maybe as well known as Shane in the golf world. I was, here's my sort of connection to her. I coached high school golf in the same class as her, like in the, you know, different classes of school and state tournaments and things. And I was there when she won her 5th in a row. I think she was like co-champion that year, but I mean, it was dark, it was late, we'd been rained out, you know, so it was a long day. And we're all at the leaderboard kind of watching, and she was just finishing up. I couldn't help but like go over and watch her for a little bit, just because, I mean, what she did and what she's accomplished in golf is crazy.
Wow. And she would never be the one to tell us that she's won 5, you know, which is so cool about her. That's really, really neat. Wow.
Were you able to work pretty closely with Shane and Kate, or was it just kind of a few emails back and forth, or were they like hands-on involved with you guys?
Super hands-on. You know, I think the first call that Sam and I jumped on, we had Kate and Shane on. Shane would follow up. Kate would follow up. It was, you know, I don't want to set them up for, you know, hey, you can just text them all the time. But like, if we wanted to kick something around, it was a really easy feedback loop. And it's really just, at that point, it was just those two really kind of, you know, putting in the elbow grease to get such beautiful work out in the world. So it really just felt like it was a team at the same table, a digital table, if you will, across Zoom and phone calls and emails. But they were awesome to work with. And I've worked in that industry for so long, and Sam hadn't really seen that side of it. But I think we would both tell you that regardless of experience in it or not, I've had the awful experience of working with, you know, firms and designers that just don't treat you well and whatever. But, you know, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but they made us kind of feel like family right away. And it was really a really good process.
No, absolutely. I mean, Kate and Shane both were very hospitable. Like, you know, we were kind of like, oh, is Shane going to hop on? Is he not? And he hopped on and was just like, it was like talking to one of our buddies. And, you know, we ended up going to the Houston Open here at Memorial Park, and we met Shane, and he showed us in, the Golf Channel tent, and we got to meet Trevor Immelman, and he's just been great to us and been in contact with us. And like Dan said, just you wouldn't know that he's a big timer. And Kate obviously is a big timer in Minnesota, but she was like, hey, we'd love to help, and did more than help, really, really jump started our brand from day one. So
Sam buried the lead on Trevor Immelman. We walked out, Shane texted us and said, hey guys, Trevor's son's left-handed. And he said he wants some gear. And I'm like, no brainer. Sam's like, you need to go home and pack up a box and get it shipped out. And we did just that, sent it over to Jacob. And we included a funny note that said, hey, we heard the best golfer in the Immelman household's left-handed. So we hope you like the gear.
That's awesome. What a like you said, just a small world. So what have you guys done? You mentioned that you also have done some stuff with content, or merch and content and things. What have you guys done on the content side?
Yeah, it's been pretty early in its infancy with content. We've tried to get to some neat courses, or a little bit, what we kind of call off the beaten cart path. Not so much just left-handed specific, but we obviously want to produce things that we would want to see, courses that we'd like to play, whatnot. We had a big trip to Kiowa to really kick off Leftee Golf, which was really neat. Sam and I and another dear friend of ours and a family member, my father, we all went out to the Ocean course and really just tried to capture as much of Kiowa as possible, and some different blog formats, some video content and reels, and then just some high-end photography. So our goal is really, as we get these opportunities to go play, is just to bring people along with us. And so a lot of that took place in just kind of some visual content, but really where we're getting to right now, which is pretty exciting, is, it's been a really warm reception from some pretty talented golfers, which is funny. We're on the phone with Korn Ferry Tour guys, and some guys with PGA experience, and, guys that are starting their pro careers, where Sam and I are just hoping to make it through a round, without limping by the end. But we're starting to get into that space where we've got some really kind of neat, I'd say, human interest stories to tell that have some left-hand bents to it, including an architect that's left-handed. I've always wanted to talk and understand if there really is a bias against the left-handers from a course design standpoint. Caddies, a content producer from PGA who played college golf left-handed. So some really on the nose being left-handed, and some with more just kind of some tentacles into being left-handed. So that's kind of where we're transitioning to in terms of being able to tell some neat stories, some long-form stuff, some short-form stuff. But again, our goal is to kind of keep it as somewhat loose and open to where we can, kind of pivot, and maybe we cover some tournaments. There's going to be some qualifiers for the Korn Ferry Tour. We know some left-handers are playing in. We want to follow their lead up to that, and kind of show what takes place leading up to that, the tournament, the follow-up, all that. So grand pie in the sky plans with some of that, but we have some really interesting relationships being built right now to help us get there.
One of the things I wanted to ask you was, what do you think? How can we start to gain some recognition and grow the game sort of on the lefty side of things? And I think you hit on that, like when you get to sort of that niche of like architects, is there a bias? That interview is going to be super cool when that comes out. I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, I just, anytime, and as Sam will tell you too, Sam's got a great swing. It's fun to watch. It's when you step up and you see another guy in the range, like, you immediately watch the swing, right? Because he's left-handed. It's like watching a three-point shooter. I've never seen an ugly three-point shot. Now, I could break the mold on an ugly left-handed golf swing, and that's fine. But you don't get to – you've obviously got Brian Harmon right now. You've got Garrett Kigo. You've got some of these guys that are a little bit in and out. The Korn Ferry Tour, unfortunately, being a severe lack of broadcasting, right? Like, you don't get to see – as much left-handed golf as you would when Phil was back, or when Phil was, at his height. So if we can just kind of keep showing, these left-handed players and highlighting it and sharing spotlights, like, we've got some great relationships with college, some really big-time college guys. Like I mentioned, some guys on the Korn Ferry Tour, stuff that's going to be announced pretty soon with us doing some representation of those guys. Like, we just want to bring that to the forefront as much as possible because I like watching left-handed golf swings. I'm always it beats going to YouTube and trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing wrong. So that's really the goal there, and I just think the more we can see it and the more that we can help promote it, and same with what you guys are doing and other brands in the space that are out there, it's like the more the merrier, and the more content the better, in my opinion.
And it's interesting as we started looking into the Corn Ferry guys, and how many guys are left-handed, and then the college Division I guys, how many guys are left-handed, how many guys play at a high level. I'm not surprised, but it's like a lot more than you would think, and that's our goal. Is like we're trying to highlight those guys because for whatever reason, and that's a stat that we can maybe figure out one day, is like, once you vacuum to the PGA Tour, it's not as many guys, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it is the architect biased, and maybe we'll find some traction in that. But there are a lot of good amateur players in the Division I level and the Corn Ferry level, and I think the Corn Ferry Tour, especially with their social media and just the coverage, has definitely grown. And if we can parlay that into growing these left-handed golfers, like that's our goal for sure.
Yeah, and that I think is what we're all sort of in this for. I mean, looking at like from the national level, that you guys, you're like kind of, is it sponsoring? You've got a sponsorship with the NALG now, or how would you describe your relationship with them now?
Yeah, so first off, kudos to you guys for, really tipping us off to the NALG, an 87-year 87-year-old organization that's been promoting left-handed golf. Like, that's awesome. So we actually ended up reaching out to them and just said, listen, how can we help? What can we do? And they're really in a neat process of trying to modernize their brand and bring it into the world. And I don't think they'd be shy to tell you that the average age is probably a tick older than the social media generation, and so they're really trying to figure out how to bring new people in the fold. And it's like, well, hey, I think we could help in that regard. So, one, what's really neat, we're working on potentially providing apparel. Sam and I have built some good relationships in the manufacturing space. Not that we want Leftee Golf to be an apparel brand. We want to make kind of small, custom, limited run, small batch items that we'd want to wear, and hopefully others would too, as badges of honor. But we do want to help like the NALG produce that. We do want to help them produce some content from some of their state and national tournaments, so people can kind of see like, hey, this is really, really cool. I mean, they're going to be in Coeur d'Alene this year at a beautiful track at Avondale. And it's like, hey, we can show up with cameras and put our best foot forward and at least just, help, because what they're doing is truly awesome, like really promoting the left-handed game, right? And we're kind of on the outskirts of that. So we just said, let us help. We'll do whatever we can. And it's been a neat relationship that's being built so far.
And I love what media, like just sort of the, how would you describe it? Kind of what we're doing here, just kind of the podcast side and the social media side, how we are able to add to that now, kind of with from our own angles. This wasn't so much available, and maybe 10 years ago. I started playing in our state left-handed tournament 16 years ago. I was 16 years old, and I was just like, wow. It was just kind of a place to go that was kind of unique, but it wasn't really growing, and I think this is such a cool way for us to attack it from all angles.
Yeah, we had, we told them we'd be happy to kind of pump up the tournament. We had people reach out and go, 1, I didn't know that exists. 2, that's awesome. 3, I wish I was left-handed, just to play in it. So I don't think they do any right-handed specific tournaments because every single one of them would be. But right. It's really neat what they're doing. And, I think I read that the World Association of Left-Handed Golf Tournament is in Vietnam this year. And it's like, okay, how can we get involved in that? That would be pretty cool.
That would be awesome. I've seen that too. I want to talk about your apparel for just a little bit. Your website is awesome. Can we pull that up?
Yeah, Sam, when I was going through the website, the hat you had on, I was telling Dad, I was like, dude, if I got one of these hats, I like that white one. That's got a good look to it. But yeah, I mean, you guys got a lot of good stuff on here.
Yeah, I like the way that, the kind of your approach for visibility is through your hat options are awesome. I could peruse this for a while. It's a cool cool collection of stuff.
Yeah, thank you. We, our goal, we're like, listen, it's a different world today. You don't need to have a stockpile of inventory. We wanted to create a kind of, and it's funny, this hat just launched that I've got on today, and Sam's got our bestseller on. We really just said, hey, we want to create some badges of honor that left-handers can wear to say, hey, we're proud to play left-handed, because it's fun. It's tribal in its own in its nature, because there's not very many of us. Sam and I always say, hey, if we wanted to get rich off this thing, we'd probably target right-handers because there's a lot more of them. But that's just not who we are or what we want to be. So we just set out to create stuff that we'd want to wear, that other people might as well. And, we've got some really good people that we turn to solicit some feedback, mostly left-handed, some in the creative space and some in the golf space. But we got pretty lucky early on with Shane and Kate and them helping set us up with B. Draddy and Seamus and doing some neat collaborations with them. And those all sold really well, which was neat. And, like I said, our goal is not to make a ton of money off of this, but I think pie in the sky, end of the day, if we made money off of content or apparel or whatever, great. The Leftee Golf brand's out there, but at the end of the day, we want to be a resource for left-handed golfers. And, that means for us, like, hey, could we help sponsor a mini tour guide that's mini tour guy or gal that's out there absolutely grinding? Like, could we cover a rental car for a week? Could we kick over some Marriott points? I get a lot of them in scouting. It's like, could we help provide a hotel for a qualifier for a left-handed golfer out there? Like, what are ways that we can actually add to it and help somebody that's really pursuing their dream? Because Sam and I are past the point of probably ever playing extremely competitive golf, and that's okay. But how can we really help in that regard? How can we kind of help youth left-handers? In one instance, I look at my daughter, who's almost going to be 2 years old. She has a little plastic clubs that are red, yellow, and blue. And guess what? They're right-handed, because why wouldn't they be? Could we produce some left-handed clubs that if there is a kid that's showing a proclivity for left-handed, for being left-handed at a young age, why can't he or she swing a little Tykes left-handed golf club? There are certain things that I think we want to do to add to the space. Has absolutely nothing to do with trying to make money or really line our pockets. If we can write off some rounds of golf, great. That's wonderful. Other than that, we just want to do cool stuff that we like and that hopefully other people like.
I think that's really, really forward thinking, and it's a fresh way, because I've been digging a lot into, like, the Monday Q info guy, Ryan French from Fire Pit, and he tells a ton of the stories of guys and women just trying to make it. And golf is not Rory McIlroy. Golf is not, private jets and much of what we saw in Full Swing. So much of it is just people trying to make it, who need, like, in a qualifying town or a Corn Ferry city, a place to stay, a place to, so they don't have hotel costs, so they don't have this stuff, and they're looking for that. And what a cool way to kind of approach it from your side. That's awesome.
Definitely.
One of the things that came up on your Instagram recently, and I was just looking, I don't think it was a post, you must have done it as a story, was a couple of pictures from Dallas, like a round you had in Dallas. It looked, maybe it was kind of rainy, maybe last week or something. Just kind of caught my eye as like a cool sort of everyman course. I don't know where it was. I don't know anything about Texas golf. So, I mean, what do we need to know about golf in Dallas, say, versus Houston or different areas of the state?
Yeah, Sam's well versed in that. Sam, you want to take on the different, takes on golf here in Texas?
Yeah, so I would say Houston has unlimited public tracks. Like, it can be overwhelming at times. My personal style is I like piney woods, I like tree lines, I like trees, and there's plenty of that, especially in Houston. But there's also quite a few nice link style public tracks. I live, probably 3 to 5 miles away from Memorial Park. It's a Muni here in Houston. They recently hosted the Houston Open. It just pivoted from Firestone, which was not Firestone, that's in Ohio, but another course here in Houston. It pivoted to Memorial Park here, which is the top Muni course in Houston. So green fees at Memorial Park for your outsiders about 120 to 140. Because I live in the city limits, like I was looking yesterday because Dan and I were potentially going to play next week. I can play for $35, and this is a PGA Tour type of course. So that's probably my spot that I go to the most. But as far as Houston, there's plenty of options. You go out west towards Austin. This is the beautiful thing about Texas. You can go an hour and a half, 2 hours west, and you have a completely different geographic region. It's hill country golf. It's elevation change, which is also one of my personal favorites. I love elevated tee shots. I love hitting into elevated greens. That's kind of more the Austin speed. There's definitely some links over in Austin as well. And then Dallas, you kind of have a mix of both as well. It's I would say more of your traditional style. If you got into Florida, just more of your kind of second shot golf courses, maybe not as many trees, more water. But Dallas is definitely slept on as well as far as the amount of municipals, the amount of public tracks, not only in the city but are outside. And my best friend lives in Dallas, and he's also a left-handed baseball guy. But I mean, he's probably played 5 to 10 courses and all under $100, and I mean, he's just blown away with the value. And it's, you got the DFW Metroplex, you got Houston. It's 2 of the largest cities in the country. And we also just love golf here in Texas. So it just combines for a lot of opportunity. And like I said, it can be overwhelming. But Dan, with his background, on the scouting trail, he's able to travel. And the more and more we've kind of gotten into this space, he's kind of parlayed that into trying out different courses. And, like you said, he played a course in Dallas last week and just in the morning, and he's able to do those kind of things. And that's kind of one of our goals, Dan, I'll let you hit on that, is we're now kind of in the space of like, we're trying to play as many new golf courses here in Texas as we can because there's so many.
Yeah. I'm pretty fortunate that I see games in the evening a lot, and my employer, hopefully they aren't watching the podcast here, but they would be just fine with that. I get my work done, but I do try when I am on the road to find kind of hidden gems. I'm down in Corpus Christi a decent bit, and fortunately our club pro here is able to make some phone calls for me. But it's very welcoming and very hospitable. It's rare that you roll up as a single to any course here, even some private, and say, hey, listen, I want to get out and play your course. It's a special place for that, very welcoming, very kind of the Southern hospitality, and kind of the unique Texas hospitality that we have here. So endless amounts. We actually asked the guys from the Texas Hackers Club, which if you haven't seen them, they're a wonderful resource for golf up in North Texas. Garrett, who's a left-hander, of course, why wouldn't he be? Actually did a guest post for us on the top 5 courses to play in DFW, alongside about like 9 or 10, gems that he couldn't leave out the honorable mention. So worth checking that out, especially if you're making a trip to the Metroplex. Really just some neat golf in the area.
Mm-hmm. Tell me again who that was in North Texas. What was his name?
Yeah, the Texas Hackers Club. Which is funny. And they do. I mean, they capture some beautiful, beautiful content of courses up there, and they're just super plugged into the scene. And one of them happens to be left-handed, which is really cool. So, good friendship built with those guys, and they've been a big help to us.
Sure. Well, that's cool because, like I said, I've never been to Texas for golf purposes, so this was some cool insight. What would you guys say is next on tap for you?
Yeah, there's a couple things that we can kind of talk about, and some that are still rolling out. Like I said, I think we're going to do some apparel stuff for the NALG. We're going to also parlay that into launching some limited run apparel that's kind of custom branded. The new hats that just launched today, we've switched suppliers to. So we've used Imperial for quite a bit of stuff, which we'll continue to do. But we've got new relationships in the space that we can do a little more custom work. So on the apparel side, we've got some fun stuff going. But I think what we're most excited about right now is that we've got about 4 or 5 people that have some pretty significant competitive careers that are budding right now. That have really kind of come to us and said, hey, like, we'd be happy to represent, happy to golf under the Leftee Golf flag. So sponsorship, ambassador, team Leftee, whatever you might call it. We've got some guys that are on board and speaking to a few other folks. There's a gal who's like in Long Drive on the left-handed side that we'd love to speak to. There's some other people, some college players, and we really want to help them and kind of put our brand along with them, and then help kind of give them a platform to build their brand as well. Because at the end of the day, it's important, and not in a superficial way, in an organic way. Like I think our goal, and anybody that we bring on to a team of sorts, or somebody that we'd want to play 18 holes with, and then have maybe a drink or some food with in the clubhouse after. So that's kind of what we're sticking ourselves to, in that regard. And it's pretty fun. So I think in the next couple of weeks, you'll see some stuff rolling out in terms of maybe some more team aspect that we're bringing together. And then I think really in the long run, being able to cultivate a real community of left-handed golfers from, the high to mid handicappers to the pros, where, maybe it's a yearly, kind of a digital country club, if you will, of left-handed golfers that can really work together to put on events, and some gifts throughout the year, some member exclusive stuff, I think would be really neat. So not sure if we'll get to that point or not, but that's certainly something that we've been kicking around. I'd say those are kind of the three initiatives right now that we're probably most excited about.
Very cool. I mean, I think that seems like a good place to kind of wrap up here. Where can viewers and everyone else find all this stuff that you are producing for us?
Sure. Yeah, I think you'll find us most active on Instagram at Leftee Golf Co. Same handle there on Twitter. Try and post to there as well. And then on the site, leftee-golf.com. Going to try and post more there. We've got the Clubhouse blog on there where we are starting to launch some more content, a little longer form stuff. And then obviously, looking at potentially telling some of these stories through a podcast platform as well. Trying to follow your guys' lead on that. So, you can find us online, and Sam and I can be reached anytime. We're a small 2-man show. We have a handwritten note in every single order that ever goes out with free goodies in every order. Our personal emails and cell phones are usually pretty publicly available. So if anyone ever needs anything, we're probably the easiest 2 people to get a hold of. And we're always going to try and do right by everybody and just help however we can.
Well, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed, 1, this conversation, and 2, kind of the way that you are approaching this, from in ways that I didn't even really consider as possibilities. I think you guys are, like I said earlier, really forward thinking. So I really appreciate you coming on, and look to, continue to stay in contact and watch what you do here over time, and see how you grow and you take the lefty game to the next level.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It's been a blast talking to y'all, and we look forward to hopefully getting up north and playing whenever that snow melts or whatever's going on up there.
You guys got to make
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.